We still, of course, love the great Die Buster here. Oh my god, it's too loud in my other headphones, chat. I just gotta turn it down real quick. Everybody turn it down. Now, turning it down, how about we turn this off? Yippee. Now, we didn't stream yesterday because there was a great Chainsaw Man chapter review we had to do. Now, we have since done that, so we're back on the streaming bandwagon. But I had something else to say at the very beginning, but I'm already forgetting, so anyway. Going live notifications. Oh my goodness, a like, and I don't think... What? Oh my god, Craig Bellamy was on the Storm podcast thingy here. It was very funny.
Best podcast.
He seems very unimpressed. This is very funny. This is a great rugby league meme. Everybody loves it.
Stoked to be here by the looks of things.
Then we've got Jarky Bacon's new video that I forgot about. We got to react to that right now. Unironically.
Back in 20.
Shut up, Jarky Bacon. We'll get to this. I forgot to... I did tell him that we would do this here. And that's all the tweets we have. Yippee. It's going to get hot in here, chat. It's summer. Guess. Why did Anywave pop up there? I don't look at illegal anime. Let's do one of these real quick to get us in the mood. Let's go to the second one. I think we did the first one. Let's do the second one ever. I don't know. Summer 2015. I feel like I have no reference for anime that came out in 2016. 13 episodes. English? It doesn't even sound like English. R18 plus violence and profanity. Oh my god, it's Japanese now. I have not a concept, not an idea, not even a fake guess. Isekai. Re-zero. How the fuck... Oh, it's got the Steins Gate thing, doesn't it? How the fuck do you spell re-zero? Let's just do zero. Re-zero. Madhouse. Is it like Overlord or some shit? Oh my god, I'm a fucking god, chat. I just know everything. Because it's like another isekai I vaguely know. All the other ones are too new, you know. Mushoku Tensei, that slime one. All the other ones. JP Hansen with his short named is here. Overlord. Don't worry, I already got it. Who knew? I know absolutely nothing about Overlord. I've seen this guy before. I don't know if this is the main character. I always thought it was the bad guy, but I just considered for a second that I'm the main character. That's crazy. Oh, I saw this funny short that seems to be about glazing funny, so that would be funny to watch. We don't need this anymore. Let's just watch this real quick.
In Berserk, Lady Farnese is introduced as the commander of the Holy Iron Chain Knight.
Now, this could almost be a real voice.
A position she
I don't believe it quite yet, but it could be.
Seemingly gained through title and wealth. Her spoiled childhood left her with a twisted love for inflicting pain on others.
Spoiled? She suffered greatly as a child.
Her deep indoctrinated faith caused her to use torture and burn
Well, her faith is kind of fake.
heretics at the stake as a way to honor God. But that very faith starts to crack when Guts abducts her. When an evil spirit tries to assault her, it's Guts, not God, who saves her. Her beliefs get flipped upside down after seeing Father Mosgus turn into a monster, and then get defeated by Guts. Farnese officially joins Guts' group, hoping to understand a world beyond her old beliefs. Guts puts her in charge of taking care of Casca, a job she takes very seriously. Wanting to be more helpful, she asks Shirkei to teach her magic despite once thinking it was evil. With Guts' support, Farnese starts to find her true self and purpose by letting her do things her own way. It's pretty wild to think that an arrogant and atrocious woman of faith would become one of the most caring and protective members of Guts' crew.
True,
This
she
is
went
one of the
from a witch hunter to a witch. Now that's just crazy. That's what we call character development, chat, and we love character development here on the internet. Oh my god, Gunbuster End. Oh, I was re-listening to a little bit of the, me, Mira, and Ari's Gunbuster discussion, because I'm preparing vaguely for the Diebuster discussion, despite the fact that it probably won't happen for, like, at least another week. But anyway, I'm bored and I'm thinking about it, so I may as well put my thoughts into action, as we frequently do here. How to write short story arcs. Oh my god, I want to learn. And it's got One Piece in the title, One Piece that I've seemingly seen because it looks East Bluey. We got a My Higa clip. Who knows why that's there? Now, I think last time I screamed, I didn't go over all the videos I had watched. Make sure I do that next time. How many of these did we watch on Stream. You could call it a screen. Watch on screen, watch on stream. Same thing, basically. The Death of Shonen Jump's New Generation. I think we watched that one on stream. This Berserk one, I think we watched on stream, and it was very boring. We watched this Masked Man video on stream. And then I think we watched this one also on stream, this Bringing Characters Back to Life. These were all okay. After Masked Man put out a good Lost Children video, we were all very disappointed that he sucks still. Madman, The Rise and Fall of Megan Draper. This was an interesting one. I gave it a good. Well, it wasn't that interesting. It was just like a Madman video. Then we've got White Light. White Light came back with a video, and we decided he's still the best, baby. He's just so good. I watched this whole video about Suicide Squad, that game people didn't like, and clearly he didn't like it either. The boundless mediocrity of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Wasn't that crazy? And, today I was, just before this really, I was watching the Joseph Anderson Elden Ring video, because he came out with a Elden Ring DLC video this year that I would like to put on the silly thingy here. And I was also earlier today watching the White Light video after this. Oh no, I finished it. The Minecraft one down here. And chat, sometimes it's really good to watch good YouTubers, because you remember that there are such things as good YouTube videos. And we've been increasingly doing this. Like, a lot of the videos, I would say, especially in the beginning of the year, a lot of these are just like random videos we found, and they're kind of bad, and oh my god, all these IGN reviews. I've been watching a bunch of other IGN reviews that I haven't been documenting. We probably don't need to document IGN reviews, now that I think about it. A lot of them just weird videos we find by small channels, and they end up, even if they're kind of good, they end up not being like, they don't feel seminal, they don't feel important, they don't feel topical or anything like that. And with and even the Masked Man videos, and these are all by big YouTubers that have like effects, and it kind of feels good to be in tune with that. So I like that quite a bit. But outside of the Masked Man, who's probably not that good, White Light and Joseph Anderson are very good. And both of their videos, especially the start of the Joseph Anderson one, and I rewatched the start of the Lies of P one just to remember if I had seen it, and just the beginnings of these videos are so good. They're just like immediately capturing, they're doing something. Especially the Joseph Anderson videos are funny in a way that's concise and quick, but also feel substantive. It's very... White Light's comedy is kind of like his delivery, where he's sort of ultra sarcastic, sort of, not even sarcastic. I don't know, if you've seen White Light videos, you kind of inherently understand sort of British type of humor. It's just like, oh, this is good videos, making points, and like points that most people haven't just thought about a million times. Like Joseph Anderson always has some weird, wild, hot take. Like, he opens the Elden Ring video saying, like, this is, like, the greatest game of all time, and it also sucks really bad. And, obviously that's, like, a generic setup, especially for a Joseph Anderson video, because that's what he says about every video game. But it's like, you just know it's going to be wacky. And I've heard a lot about this silly Elden Ring game, so even I'm slightly in tune with what people think and say about this game. Obviously, when White Light makes a Minecraft video, it's like better because I have reference for sort of the quality of the points being made, etc. But anyway, I've just had an epiphany that maybe we should just watch the good YouTubers, And by good, I just mean like the popular ones. Like, I tabbed over and I checked out Super Eye Patch Wolf because I couldn't remember where I was at with his videos this year. I don't think I've seen any. Super Kick Studios, that's different. That's a Red Letter Media video. Super Kick Studios. No, we're back to the same. So I haven't watched any Super Eye Patch Wolf videos this year. And we have to make this list a little eclectic. We have to have a video from all the big fellas, just to say that we had them. Also, we made it to 250 videos. Epic. See, we just added this one because we like One Piece, but it's by a small channel and it doesn't seem to be that interesting in concept, so it's probably bad, chat. We need to get away from these videos, but I want to watch them. And speaking of those types of videos, we got these two videos we've got up to watch. Like, is this PlayStation video going to be any good? But sometimes part of the appeal is watching like a bad video where it's going to be stupid and you can feel smart for understanding how stupid they are. But anyway, white light video, good. This Mother's Basement video, I remember complaining last stream about this Death of Shonen's New Generation thing, where it was like, I want to know what's in the Shonen Jump magazine. That's exactly what this Mother's Basement video is. Did I give it a grade? It was, these are the best types of Mother's Basement videos, like the quick sells, and talking about like 15 different series all for like a minute and a half. And then sort of having kind of an overarching like narrative that's sort of his editorializing about which one's good and which one has potential and stuff like that. It's just good. Like, I remember when, I'm pretty sure the first time I ever heard about Chainsaw Man was in one of these videos, even before the content episodes. Because I'm pretty sure I had some sort of semblance of what Chainsaw Man was before watching those content episodes. Truly epic. So Mother's Basement could be a little hit or miss, as we know. This Game Rain video was kind of good. It was like a Last of Us Part 2 analysis, like cut between other videos talking about Rain. Like he would talk about, I think he talks about Rain. No, I think he does start with Rain World. Then he does Ellie Day 1 Last of Us Part 2. Then he does like GTA. Then he does like Last of Us Part 2 Ellie Day 2. Then something. And then Part 3 or Day 3. Part 3 is not out yet, brother. I admired the structure, even if it didn't always work in execution. The points were okay too. It's kind of just like, oh, rain is sad, and when the rain builds, Ellie's mood is building, and shit like this, and the vengeance and stuff. Which is all neat. It's okay. Also, there's some weird commentary in there about how the Ellie parts are the only good parts of the game, so that's vaguely interesting. The presentation was also vaguely interesting. It was a talking into the camera video for slight parts, but mostly video game. I don't know. This video was a little interesting. It wasn't that good, but we gave it a good anyway. Then we've got all four of the Steven videos that are all very great. Even this Ava one that I don't, because I think we watched this one on stream last time. The Ava one is just sort of chronicling all the interesting Ava stuff, and then he sort of does a countdown at the end of his 10 favorite things, and his number one favorite thing was the light novels. So that's crazy. I didn't even know Ava had light novels, though I would assume it did because it's got everything. That was interesting. That video I expected to blow me away more, but it was really just sort of a chronicling of a bunch of things rather than any points being made. But we've still got like 4 Steven videos that have come out this year that I haven't watched yet. This Heavy-Eyed video, I remember one time this guy, I don't know if it was on this year's list or last year's list, where he made a like best games of 2023 video. And every time he would cut in with like he would start with like 3 or 4 or 5 sentences about the game, and then he would cut into like a layoff story. And you know, it's a bit of a soy like, we support video game people. They're getting laid off. They're making your favorite games, and then they're starving to death. They got fired. And so that's a very soy point. I'm sick about hearing about it. But this is like kind of a bold, funny way to do it, where you're not getting a top video games of the list because the industry doesn't deserve it. And here's me highlighting all the games layoffs. And it's kind of like the same joke 10 times or whatever, but I respected the boldness of it in its soyness. This video was it was like highlighting games you've never heard of, which were interesting, and they did seem like games that I had never heard of, so that was okay. All good. And then we had the other white light video. So there we go. We're all caught up on the videos I've seen. Now we'll add videos to the great playlist. We'll start with Jarky Bacon, I think. I'm trying to remember if I had anything else to do today. I played video games again today, if anybody's following this story. I've been playing... Well, I hadn't been playing anything for like 2 weeks or maybe even more. But I had been playing Days Gone, I literally had one session, I started it, and Shadow of the Colossus. And I progressed slightly in both today. I beat the 4th Colossus, and then I was like, that one was kind of fast. Maybe I could do a 5th one today. But then I was like, I'm more excited to play Days Gone. Then I played Days Gone, and I'm like, this game kind of fucking sucks. I think I'll stick with it for at least a little while longer, but I don't know. It's a bit... Maybe I'm just still getting used to it, you know? It's to the point where I'm not really enjoying either game that much at all, and I'm like, man, if video games are supposed to be fun, video games are bad. And this is a conclusion I'd come to before, that all video games are just not fun. That I've never had fun playing a video game ever. Why do people pretend these games are fun? Obviously, I kind of have fun playing Pokemon, but that's like a completion thing. And I have fun playing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum Libra mod over and over again. But again, am I actually having fun? I think about that with all art, though. Is any art fun? Is watching a TV show fun? Not really. I guess when House of the Dragon is, like, coming out, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. So I guess that is fun, but is that fun or exciting? What is fun? Has anything ever been fun? What a great question. The answer is no. Remember when you used to go to theme parks when you were like 5 and you were very excited? I guess that was fun. You know, when a football game is coming on, that's fun. I always enjoy doing that. Anyway, fun is dead. Nothing's ever been fun. Now let's watch this Sharky Bacon video. Video games are bad. Now, will I play Pokemon Stadium on the Switch after this stream? You know, maybe. Oh, I was also supposed to record a bit of that Griffith video. Hopefully we'll end stream a little bit early so I can do that today, maybe. Also, I was editing together the secondary ENT video that I'm going to make about my top 50 favorite songs, where it's just going to be a compilation of the songs playing. It's not going to be like any editorializing or voiceover or anything like that. So, everybody's on the edge of their seat for that one. We'll see if I can get it uploaded or keep it uploaded. But anyway, Jarky Bacon is here to tell us when Vinland Saga is ending. I ask him this every time we do a Vinland Saga discussion. I always say, Bacon, how many chapters we got left? And he'll always do a little estimate. So I wonder if this is to get me to shut up. But I'll just forget about this video in a few days anyway and ask him when we do Vinland Saga. We are overdue on Vinland Saga. I assume we're just going to wait for like 5 days until the next chapter comes out and then do it. Because Bacon was preoccupied and Alidari's moving and I don't know what the fuck's going on. Two losers, all they can talk about is Mushoku Tensei to each other. My goodness.
Back in 2019, Makoto Yukimura stated that the final arc of Vinland Saga would have...
I thought it was Black Lagoon music for a second, but I don't believe it is.
Back in 2019, Makoto Yukimura stated...
Hold on, Bacon probably lists them. Oh my god, March 2026 is when it's going to end? Octopath Travel. Oh my god, we're gonna get a Black Lagoon song. This is crazy. I've got predictive powers, just not identifying powers. This is from Octopath Traveler 2. I own Octopath Traveler 1. I forgot 2 even existed.
Stated that the final arc of Vinland Saga would have over 1,000 pages and over 50 chapters. At the time of this recording, there have been 213 chapters released. 1,007 pages have been drawn and 47 chapters have been published. That means Vinland Saga could be ending this year, potentially. But that doesn't mean we need to panic. After all, we have quite a bit of content left.
Oh my god, I was just going to spoil the most recent chapter because I still haven't read it.
Made it clear that this would be over 1,000 pages and 50 chapters. Not that it had to be these exact numbers. So let me give you my best guess on when Vinland Saga is going to end. First, the number of chapters from Yukimura's 2019 estimation suggests that Vinland Saga will hit at least chapter 217. As for other official word from Yukimura, he gave another estimate back in December 2022, saying that Vinland Saga was about 95% complete.
Yeah.
At the time of this quote, Vinland Saga had 198 chapters published, which, if you do the maths, puts the ending at around chapter 208, a number which we have pushed well past now. To give some context, I always thought this interview was a little bit dodgy because it's in a seemingly a more relaxed and casual setting, and Yukimura is clearly giving rough approximations. So I wouldn't take this quote despite...
Is this Yukimura?
being more
I feel like I've seen pictures of him before, but not with long hair.
as gospel. But as far as other official
That's the fella I know. Oh, he's on the end. How this is probably the interviewer. That's the guy.
Take this quote despite being more recent as gospel. But as far as other official comments from Yukimura, that's it. So, are there any other ways that we can maybe maths it out to see how many chapters of Vinland Saga we have left? Well, maybe. We can do this by looking at the number.
The manga that rivals Vinland Saga, an hour long. 200 and something. Oh my goodness, we gotta add this to the playlist. Ah, I'm logged in on the secondary ENT channel. This is embarrassing for us all. Switch accounts. Come on now.
Back in 2019,
we gotta restart the whole
Makoto
video.
Yukimura stated
Oh,
that
and the thing's
final
gonna
arc
be
of Vinland
gone.
Saga would have over 1,000 pages.
God damn
and
it,
over 50
chat.
chapters. At the time,
Oh my god, Mia in the comments here, glazing, I'm sure. Where are we up to about here? What was that video called? The manga that rivals Vinland Saga? Nope, that's not how you spell. The manga that rivals Vinland Saga. Oh my god, look, he's got so many swords in him, just like the great Thors had arrows in him. It's just, what a parallel, what a reference. Now, we got this one. Oh my god, just manga videos. We love the great manga. You need to read this manga before it gets popular, true. Expelled boy makes his former party regret kicking him out and creates OP party. True, we love a hardworking king here. The darkest time travel manga I've ever read. Oh my god, look at how many, just so many views on the great manga videos. Is his voice going to be really annoying? We're only going to watch the first little bit, chat, I promise. Oh, it's hard to hide when you're happy inside or something. We got so many advertisements here, you don't know what to do with them.
Story begins with a boy named Ryuka who didn't like much in life, especially not the leader.
His voice is hey, chat. Everybody will be happy to.
we have left? Well, maybe. We can do this by looking at the number of chapters in each volume. Vinland Saga has recently typically had 8 chapters per volume, albeit with some noticeable
Look at this.
deviation.
Trash Shonen Volume 2. Disgusting.
To get past these
Now, what did Bacon just say?
8 chapters per volume, albeit
chapters.
with some noticeable deviations. To get past these deviations, we can have a closer look at their actual page count. Extrapolating this, we have an average page count of 190 since volume 11. If we then apply this to
What was going on
figures
in
of
23?
volume 29 so far, which has 4 chapters and 92 pages published, this means we will probably get around about 8 chapters in total with a page count of 184. This means we can probably say that Vinland Saga will end at the earliest at chapter 217. Assuming it ends this volume, this nicely fits up with Yukimura's 2019 estimation. But I would hold your horses on that. I don't think Vinland Saga is ending in the next 4 chapters, because if you're caught up to date with Vinland Saga, you know that we are in the thick of it. We are in the middle of the climax of the final arc, for which 4 chapters, honestly, just seems too few to finish this story. So that gives me 2 options. The first one is that volume 29 will have more chapters than the usual volume, as is not uncommon with many final volumes.
We're getting a whole nother volume, chat. I'm spoiling the video.
Attack on Titan. Or, secondly, we will be getting a volume 30.
We love Attack on Titan and that big final volume.
Which roughly gives us another. Or, secondly, we will be getting a volume 30, which roughly gives us another 8 chapters to play with. If we stick to volume 29, it would be reasonable that we could get around a maximum of 230 pages, giving us 2 more chapters to play with. This would have the manga end at chapter 219. Or we could have another 190 page volume in volume 30, giving us another 8 chapters, landing us on chapter.
That's what's happening, chat. This one over here, 125.
225. If we want to take a step back
Also, Black Lagoon music.
And look at the final 8 chapters or 230 pages of the Farmland arc, within these pages we have Arni's death, Omar's redemption,
Oh no, he's saying we could figure it out because lots happened in these couple
Thorfinn's
chapters.
100 Punches, Thorfinn and Knut's discussion, the epilogue of the farm, and the reunion of Thorfinn with his family. That is some seriously dense writing.
Bacon didn't even make a joke about how much he hates the Great
And I'd say
Ylva.
we'd probably have a considerable amount more of content to deal with in this arc. We have Thorfinn, Hild, and Pulma to be resolved, the inner politics of the Elnu and what's going to happen with the sword. We have Ivar and his gang. We have Aina and Bug Eyes. We have Gudrid and her child Snorri. And we also have Miss Hegpiquer and Nusquadjija. So, taking this all together, Despite what some may say, Vinland Saga is not ending anytime soon. I could personally see enough content here to making a potential volume 31, or
Oh my
maybe
god, Bacon's going a step even further
taking those
beyond.
8 chapters of volume 30 and bulking it out to fit, that 230 page rough content estimation of our farmland comparison. Given this, I would probably set an estimate of the manga ending at chapter 227. That seems reasonable to me.
Write it down, chat.
As for the precise month for when this chapter will drop, assuming that Yukimura releases 9 chapters a year, as he has done for the last 2, we will be ending the manga in roughly March 2026. If he gets back to his more regular schedule of 10 to 11 chapters...
Oh my god, so the March 2026 one that you can find here is including the breaks, which I was going to lecture Jarky Bacon on at the end of the video if he didn't include, but he's one step ahead of me.
a year, we might be ending in late 2025 or even earlier. But if you want a more broad estimation, I personally see Vinland Saga ending anywhere from the latter half of 2025 to the end of 2026. As always, this is mere speculation based off pure guesstimation and a touch of cope in there as well, perhaps. So please take this with a
What if it gets cancelled? Did we consider that?
massive grain of salt. While I don't see us getting anything less than 30 volumes, Yukimura has been teasing the ending being close for around about 2 years now. At the end of the day, Vinland Saga will end when Yukimura deems it best. And from that, all I can say is that we should just enjoy the ride while we are still on and chugging along. Hope you all will enjoy the video. See ya!
True, Bacon gets to have a 6-year break between his fancy goodbye videos. And by his, I mean mine, obviously. Now that sure was informative, chat. Wait, how many views has this one got? 300. Is that good for Bacon at the moment or not? Now, gotta paste this here. No, that's my tweet. We don't need that there. We need this there. Now, is this the first Jarky Bacon video of the... No, of course not. I'm about to remember what it was when I tab. I certainly didn't watch that roundup. Nostalgia for the future, that's probably what's on there. Now, this is not a video. I say this is Bacon walking around. Vinland Saga doesn't deserve Anime of the Year. I don't really remember that video. It's crazy. I'm sure I would if I watched it. I'll give that video a good, It's not mind-blowing. It's just a little timeline that I'm sure to forget. Oh my god, the ultimate Berserk iceberg explained. Imagine if we sat through this one after watching the Great Ciclet's much superior version. Popcorn addiction. Is it really an addiction? Episode 1? What does that mean? Who knows? Why am I so sleepy? You'd think the great stream would wake me up. I wasn't so sleepy before this. Guess the anime opening. We need a wake up call. We're going down to day 3, baby. Oh my god, day 2 is highlighted because I have no idea. Spring 2023. Oshinoko. That's a 2023. 12 episodes. Jujutsu Kaisen. Complete guess. Shonen. 2023. What's a new shonen that came out in 2023 or had a new season? Black Clover. A1 Pictures. Did I read one or did I accidentally skipped it, I think, because I double clicked it. Gag Humor Fantasy Parody School. My Hero or something? No, that's not by A1 Pictures, bro. That's by Go. I have no idea what this is. Oh my god, Heath just showed up. He definitely knows what this is. Streaming too early, you bum. I mean, this is a little later than I've done a few times recently. Don't worry, we just watched a bacon video. I have not even a guess. Yes, Mashley. My favorite anime. Let's check out what Mashley is, huh? Magic and Muscles. Wait, maybe I have heard about this, but I feel like I heard about this way long ago. Where it's just like girls that are really fit, and then they train this one guy. I don't know. I bet Heath has seen it. The pathetic state of modern PlayStation, or do we want to fix Pokemon? Do you want to watch this One Piece video? It's only 5 minutes. Let's just watch this. Emiru does not want to fuck you. Now, it's a great clip. I've seen this clip before, though. Chainsaw Man reveal is insane. True. The Statue of Liberty got a crack in it. River? Oh my god, there's like 2 songs I like called River. I bet neither of them are this one, but we got to watch it just in case. We've got Lebanon something kills... Oh, is this the Israel thing where they blew up the pages? I think so. Look, this is over here too. Now, none of this seems too interesting. A Madman tribute. Oh, is this going to have a cool song in it? Oh my god, Florence and the Machine Hunger. I don't know this song. This is the band that sang the Game of Thrones song at the end, remember? Jenny didn't want to leave. It was epic. Let's find possible Madman things that can look epic to time to music. This is going to be fun. All of Madman is just people looking at people. See? Of course, there's much sex, chat. We love the great sex. Oh, he's gonna die in that water or something. Threesome sex. You ever think about that, chat? Crying. We got some of that. Smoking. That's pretty cool. More looking. He's gonna kill himself.
Many battle manga.
Oh my god. Okay, we're watching a One Piece video. How to write story arcs. Intro. Ownby BC MHA. Black River One Piece. I don't know what this is, chat. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. Oh no, and some of these are also getting smallified. Is this how you do tags in the modern day? You don't actually put them in the tags, you put them in the description. That's big smart. You know what, man? You're fairly good at describing how to write stories. Are you working on your own comic? True. I'd be interested. Oh, this is that thing we learnt about in the Mother's Basement video that I think Heath was talking about the last stream where it was like, this is actually the new big one. Now I know this is about a guy with a sword and a goldfish because the Great Mother's Basement told me. Now, I just saw Brendan and May. Where were they? Here. The greatest love story is canon. I love you. We can't be getting Pokemon manga spoilers. Oh my god, I just want to see if this is any of the... Oh, it's only a minute. Nope, this is not any of the songs called River that I like. True, Punchin. Even though that was the other girl, the dark-haired one, whose name I forgot. One Piece!
Many battle manga start the story with a bunch of short little stories before moving into longer arcs. Some of these stories are one-act stories.
Let's see what else this channel has made. 3,000 subscribers. Do domain expansions suck? I assume that's like Jujutsu Kaisen Powers or something. I hate binding vows. Like, remember when Severus Snape made a binding vow, that is, with that girl that is the mother of Draco Malfoy. And then he had to kill the great Dumbledore. But twist, Dumbledore wanted him to kill him the whole time, and Snape was the good guy. When Pixar made opposite films, Underdogs and Talents. Oh no, is this about talent and hard work? Talk no Jutsu is good. Oh my god, never seen that video before. Anyway, back to this.
In a previous video, I talked about 3-act structure and how it applied to battle manga. I also brought up one-act stories, which
We
Rob
love
the key described
acts and structures.
as a series of scenes that shape a few sequences that build up to one major reversal, ending the story, usually a 50 to 20 minute film. In this video, I'll break down some good and bad one-act story arcs in battle manga. When it comes to manga, one-act stories are usually around 1 to 3 chapters. The key steps are introduction, inciting incident, short journey, and climax. Sometimes the
Inciting incident and something.
incident happens before the intro. Sometimes it never happens. Let me list some examples. In One Piece Chapter 2, these are the scenes. Luffy gets in trouble, Alvida and Kobe are established. Kobe meets Luffy, Kobe stands up to Alvida, and Luffy beats Alvida. Kobe standing up for himself and Luffy's victory are the climax. Naruto Chapter 2 also has one act. Konohamaru and Naruto's conflict is set up. The two train, then Naruto beats Abisu in the climax. Same for Chapter 3. The three-way conflict between Team 7 is set up. Naruto poses as Sasuke, then Sasuke scolds Sakura in the climax. More examples are Bleach Chapter 2, the UA entrance exam, the quirk apprehension test, Magna's mini arc, and Noel's mini arc. The formula is pretty simple. Tell a short story within 1 to 3 chapters that ends with the climax. What separates the good from the bad is in the small details. Naruto's Chapter 2 and 3 are bad examples. Chapter 2 is about learning sexy jutsu, and Chapter 3 is about Naruto trying to kiss
Epic.
Sakura while disguised as Sasuke. Neither of these stories take full advantage of the action genre.
So these weren't even. Well, it's going to end up being a thing, but this is one act structure or something? Or One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. Okay,
And neither of them are good representations of the manga's strength. Both of them have themes and character arcs, which is good, but they almost feel like different stories compared to what Naruto would be known for. The appeal
character arcs are good, chat.
of the battle genre is battles. Chapter 1 understood that, 2 and 3 did not. Compare that to One Piece and Bleach, which is a step up. Both of them have a theme, both of them use action and antagonists that are in the style of the story. Alvida feels like a proper One Piece villain. The Hollow in Chapter 2 is a Hollow, which were the main antagonists for the first arc of Bleach. Neither of these were goofy, low-stakes stories like Naruto. And since Naruto is in the same battle genre, they could have done something similar. And then a step even higher is in MHA and BC. I'll start with Black Clover. The Magna arc is in Chapter 4. After the setup of the characters, Magna proposes a challenge for Asta to earn his Magic Knight robe. He throws a fireball at him, and Asta deflects it. There is no theme or character arc, which is a negative, but the amount of creativity is brilliant. In One Piece and Bleach, they both fought actual antagonists, but BC found a way to have action that used the power system, but was not necessarily a fight. The reason this is an advantage is because the story doesn't need to create
This is like the real life criteria sheet in action, chat. This is crazy.
one-time disposable villains.
No character arcs. Now that's in the negative column, but we do have creativity, whatever that means, and that's in the plus.
It can just instead focus on the important characters, which is what the chapter did. For action, there was even a cool tactic of also using the flat side of his sword. Furthermore, this arc feels like it contributed more to the story than One Piece and Bleach because it includes several characters that will remain important and is a bonding moment between them. Bleach Chapter 2 feels like a self-contained episode, so does Naruto Chapter 2. One Piece Chapter 2 feels a little more connected to the world since Kobe
Also, the not unrequited clips. The unrelated clips, that's the word I'm looking
is
for.
in the next arc,
is
but then
interesting.
he's gone. To recap, the creativity in the action and the continuity relevance it holds makes it stronger than the previous examples. Now Noel's arc, which is in Chapter 5. Noelle is set up as a character, the struggle is established, her powers go haywire, Asta saves her. Once again, it has the strengths of the last arc. The action finds a way to be creative, and not just a fight. Noelle's magic creates a problem, and Yami, Asta, and Finral combine their magic in specific ways to save her. Like the Magna arc, this contributes more to the story because it includes only the main characters that will only get mainer. Furthermore, Noelle has an important character arc here. It's also an important team bonding moment. The only thing missing is a theme. That brings me to MHA. I believe MHA is the complete package. In the entrance exam, all the pros from the previous examples are combined. The story isn't low-stakes horseplay. The story is an accurate representation of the strengths of the story.
I do remember really liking this early period of My Hero Academia. Like this, when they have to fight a robot and Deku hasn't really used his power yet, but he can only really use it once. And Ochaku has to help him by making something float or something. It was so cool. Never before and never again did I want these two to kiss more than this moment.
Meaning there is epic action. The action is unique, which doesn't require a throwaway villain. This entrance exam has the students defeating robots. The arc actually feels important to the greater story, because the exam is to get into the school that most of the story will be told in. And there's a theme. You should help others even at your own expense. This unfortunately lacks a character arc, which is why I think the quirk apprehension test is the pinnacle of one-act storytelling in battle manga. No fooling around, represents the genre well. Unique action with no throwaway villain, thanks to the ball throwing. It's important to the story because failure equals expulsion, and there's a character arc linked to the theme. You can't be
Do I remember any... I was going to say any Deku development. But I guess so, right? He gets more practical or whatever. Because when he starts, he's like got the right mindset, right? But then like here, I vaguely remember this now. I think I'd forgotten about this entirely. But he figures out how he can just use one finger to get damaged or whatever. So he can throw the ball really far or something.
Thanks to the ball throwing. It's important to the story because failure equals expulsion, and there's a character arc linked to the theme. You can't be reckless. It's perfect. And what's so impressive is that the climaxes of MHA and BC are more exciting and impactful than the climaxes of the big three, despite the fact that they aren't actually fighting an antagonist. They're just doing creative action set pieces. In conclusion, I think the way MHA and DC write these one-act stories is the most ideal way to bring out all the strengths of the genre and place it into a short story at the beginning of a battle manga.
What a funny video. Let's revolutionize indie manga. This is Bigley. He is writing a manga. Why did that comment ask that then? But yeah, I don't like structure analysis like this at all, chat. But it is what it is. Hey, I was trying to double click that. I don't really think conciseness is inherently a good thing. So I don't think cramming a theme, a character development, a plot development, a conflict or resolution, something to do with a genre all into anything makes anything inherently good. So we'll give that video an okay. Now, are we going to get mad at PlayStation? Or are we going to fix Pokemon? Let's just get this fucking... We might... video like 5 minutes in, so it's okay.
Meet sales expectations to even said game releases simply failing to be.
Let's just restart the fucking video. It's only 30 seconds, and let's remember. He had a clip and something, and then he asked somebody where the games are. I've thought about this line where he plays the clip of this dude asking where the games are, like, and then I just thought about what Elite Ari would say, and he'd be like, "There's obviously like hundreds of games on the PS5," and then I'm like, "True, Elite Ari, there is. What's this idiot talking about?"
I have one. There's no games. There's no games on it! It's a Netflix box! There's nothing!
Now, even if this is, like, the week it comes out, there's probably still, like... There's no way that launched without, like, 100 games on it, right? And on the store and stuff.
Been around the gaming social media landscape
Plus, you can play all the PS4 games
for the last month, you may have been noticing a very alarming pattern going on with many AAA game studios as of late. That pattern being that they are struggling, big time. From employees being laid off, to game releases failing to meet sales expectations, to even said game releases simply failing to be, you know, actual good video games. Basically, besides for a couple of exceptions like
Oh yeah, and we got mad that he called something a good video game.
Nintendo and Epic Games, pretty much nearly every massive AAA developer and publisher you can think of is going through rough financial problems right now. With one of these massive publishers being arguably the most infamous among the rest, that one gaming publisher being none other than Sony Interactive Entertainment, aka PlayStation. There has been a lot of recently revealed news about the foreseeable future of PlayStation that shows that they are currently going through a rough time right now. From the aforementioned layoffs, to the announcement of no major game releases for the rest of this year, to even the announcement of the PlayStation 5 console now entering the later stage
I was wondering when this came out. It came out 4 months ago.
of its life after failing to meet sales expectations, there's simply no sugarcoating it. The PlayStation brand is currently going in a downward spiral. Naturally, with all of these shocking announcements coming from the actual company itself, this has caused a lot of confusion and justifiable eyebrow raises among general gaming fans. How is PlayStation, a brand that felt like it was on top of the world by the end of the last generation only a few years ago, now suddenly in a position where they have to let go of 900 of their employees? Well, unfortunately, the answer to
Now, so far, this has been slightly more informed than I expected.
that question isn't exactly a simple one. While it would be so easy for me to basically summarize this entire video as, haha, the PS5 has no games and that's why no one is playing it, thank you for watching my video, subscribe for more, the simple truth is that there is way more to the situation besides that. I mean,
There's no way, like, the average person buys a PS5 and is, like, mad about the game stop being there, right? Because the average person probably plays, like, 3 games, right? They play Fortnite, which is definitely on it. They play NBA 2K, which is definitely on it. And they play, like, Call of Duty, which is definitely on it. Like, I don't think there's anybody like, oh no, the first party PlayStation is there. No games are coming out this year yet. Wolverine's next year, and The Last of Us Part 3 hasn't been announced properly yet, and Ghost of Tsushima 2 is still a year out, and I don't know when this Horizon multiplayer game is. Like, this is like, and the kind of funny guys talk about this all the time, where it's like such a niche within a niche to even know what games are first party exclusives and which games aren't. And also, they're still, like, trouncing Xbox, right? So, on that front, it doesn't really matter. But then to focus in on... Because there was, like, a vagary here where it was, like, AAA games are falling, and then PlayStation are falling. But it's just, like, a general industry thing coming out of COVID, it seems. And then a lot of people are like, but Nintendo's not doing it. But I don't think we really know what's happening with Nintendo or Japanese video games generally in terms of, like, layoffs and stuff, right? Obviously, in English, there's especially recently, especially in like the last 5 to 10 years, where there's a lot more love online for sort of like workers' rights and shit like that. Obviously, layoffs feed into that narrative and get highlighted a lot more. Especially when the same companies reporting on the layoffs are also having layoffs. It's like, oh, well, obviously this is going to get covered.
The Wii U definitely had games for its time, and yet you saw what happened to that thing. Instead, what I believe is going on
Oh, is he saying that maybe games don't mean
as
everything?
haha, the PS5 has no games and that's why no one is buying it. Thank you for watching my video, subscribe for more. The simple truth is that there is way more to the situation besides that. I mean, the Wii U definitely had games for its time, and yet you saw what happened to that thing. Instead, what I believe is going on is a combination of small problems that have been plaguing PlayStation for years now. Small problems that have been getting worse and worse and are now all coming back simultaneously to bite Sony back. And that is
Now, it is this video so far smarter than I thought it was. So I don't think we're going to get the wokeism here, which would be funny, because that's what Tyrone would say immediately. He would say they woked it up and nobody's buying it. There's a few things. There's increased, like, dev cycles, like games take, like, 6 years to make. They could do the argument that all the games are the same, like they're all Last of Us, basically. Like God of War became The Last of Us, and, well, I don't know how you could say Horizon is The Last of Us, but Horizon is a third-person action game. It's more open world, though, and I'm pretty sure God of War is open world, right? The Last of Us Part 2 was almost open world. Even Bloodborne was, like, open world, right? Kinda. So the sameness could be a thing. The push to live service is obviously a big thing. I don't know if that's what this video is going to talk about, because this was made before Concord. And obviously, like, Naughty Dog spent all that time making a game that's not coming out. So there's mismanagement generally there, which is interesting. But maybe I'll say something completely new.
what I want to talk about today. Let's take a look at the issues that are currently ruining PlayStation and explain how I feel like PlayStation has been really taking us and their fans for granted as of late. I guess I should structure this video
No. Not taking the fans for granted.
by going through these issues one by one. I'll even add the Inception noise in between the transitions to make it funny. Issue number 1. Why is everything you make for PlayStation so expensive now, Sony? You know, for the longest time, I always thought Nintendo was the worst of the big 3 gaming companies when it came to giving their products the most egregious and ridiculously high prices you can think of. $100 for an extra Switch stock, like, yeah, no thank you. But honestly, the way Sony has been handling the
Didn't that just say 90
ridiculously high prices you can think of.
$69?
$100 for an
Uh-oh. And it was originally $90.
extra Switch stock, like, yeah, no thank
It was, when I recorded this, it's not much cheaper for some reason. Okay.
you. But honestly, the way Sony has been handling the prices for
I forgive him.
PlayStation products in this generation has gone to the point where they are now just as bad, if not worse than Nintendo. Let's paint a scenario. We're in the United States. Let's imagine that I want to get into the
Oh my god, scenario sounds like Mario. Maybe this video is
They
genius.
are now just as bad, if not worse than Nintendo. Let's paint a
Maybe it
scenario.
just has a bad title, Chad. I've made videos with bad titles.
We're in the United States. Let's imagine that I want to get into the PlayStation ecosystem and I have 2 stupid kids who want to play the latest EA Sports game together because they're kids and they're stupid. So how much would I have to fork over? Well, there's the console itself for $500, an extra controller for $70, and the latest EA soccer game for another $70. Which
True, you gotta pay a whole nother controller.
means that even before tax, this would already cost me $640 US. And that's only for the bare minimum for my example. I can theoretically keep going. Such as, what if one of my kids wants to play their game online? You can't play this game online without an active
True.
subscription to PlayStation Plus, so you know what that means. There are a lot of
All these things are cheaper on Nintendo if you want to compare them to that, because it comes with 2 Joy-Cons and you can just flip them. Well, you probably can't play the newest EA. Well, they probably released those on Switch, right? It probably just shit and runs like shit. But, and also the online is obviously cheaper on the Switch.
annoying factors at play when it comes to saying how much PlayStation Plus costs, so let's just go with a monthly subscription to PlayStation Plus Extra, which is $15 on initial purchase. But what if I or my kids are sick of playing this multiplayer game and want to get some kind of single-player experience? Well, time to pick up a copy of Spider-Man 2 to get our fix of that, which now adds another $70 to the total. However, we then notice just how much space these games are taking up, and the PS5 is shipped with only so much
True,
storage
you
at our
need an
disposal.
extra
So it's highly
thingy.
advised that we get ourselves an SSD, which is the only storage format that the PS5 can use to play PS5 games from. So picking one up that is the recommended amount of 2 terabytes is going to be around $180. And since we're going to have 2 controllers lying around, we might as well have a way to easily charge both of them. It would be annoying to remember needing to hook up a cable for each controller.
Okay, the last 2 are stretching it. You don't need this charging thing. Like, you can charge the PS4 controller with anything. And also a PS5 controller. So, you don't need, for 2 games, you don't need a storage.
And it would absolutely suck if one of the kids picks up a dead controller, which is a likely scenario because the battery life for Sony controllers absolutely sucks, so might as well include the official charging dock for $30 more. Keep in mind that my scenario is only taking into consideration just how much all of this costs right now here in the United States. The results from my scenario can
True,
possibly be
it's way cheaper than for the rest of us.
even more expensive, whether it be the console costing way more in other regions around the world, or Sony deciding to once again raise the price of PlayStation Plus for like the 5th time this generation. Basically, it feels like
Also, it doesn't really cost that much more. It's just like,
costing way more in other regions around
because America's the only country in the world right now with a good economy.
the world, or Sony deciding to once again raise the price of PlayStation Plus for like the 5th time this generation. Basically, it feels like this console only gets more and more expensive as time goes on, which is like completely backwards to how it should be. I know this problem is incredibly subjective. I know what may seem expensive to the eyes of one person may be seen as chump change compared to the eyes of another. But for casual consumers, the fact that stuff like the games are now so expensive means that the opportunity for those people to continuously spend more and more on games is getting smaller and smaller. And like, don't you want your consumer base
Do you think it's really suffering from, like, casual people not buying it? I feel like the problem right now is probably that you can still just use your PS4 for basically everything. Like, yeah.
To continuously and consistently spend on your platform. Isn't that like the goal for every single game platform ever? But hey, at the very least, the high prices are worth it, aren't they? Maybe it's just an expensive gateway to a platform of many exclusive experiences. That has to be the case, right? Issue number 2. Dear Sony, where are the games? Even though I said at the beginning of the video that the PS5 having very little exclusives isn't exactly the only problem that's going on with PlayStation, it's still nevertheless a huge problem. Many people have been noticing as of late how even though the PS5 has been out in the market for over 3 years, the quantity of exclusive experiences to be
I was going to say, this is obviously the consumer's fault, right? They've constantly expected more, especially, and like, because this generation is the first generation where the game prices are up, when it probably should have been consistently going up the whole time. And obviously all these game budgets are ballooning because they have to meet sort of these standards, which is higher graphics, etc., that people expect. But I guess if you're more charitable to the other side, you could just say, well, maybe as developers we should have managed expectations better. I would say Sony's probably happy with how the PS5 is going right now. So I don't think they're like in crisis mode. They're probably not happy with the first-party studios output right now, especially after Concord, but
so it's still shockingly very small. It's so bad to the point that it's basically been a giant meme to look at the Wikipedia page of exclusive games on PS5 and look at just how small the list is. With some people on Twitter even adding insult to injury by comparing the Wikipedia page to other similar Wikipedia pages but for other less successful consoles. And while some of these comparisons are definitely done hyperbole, I mean the page of exclusive Wii U games does contain more games than the PS5 one, but that's not taking into consideration that one of those games in the list is fucking meme run. The original argument of these posts still stands. For how
also the Wii U is done.
While the console has been out, the quantity of exclusive games the PS5 has is embarrassingly small. And I don't think you have to have a very high IQ to understand that not a lot of people are going to be content with paying hundreds of dollars on a console that doesn't offer a lot of unique experiences. And I know some of you will argue that a big reason for why this is the case is that Sony made the choice to make their last couple of game releases cross-gen releases for both PS4 and PS5, and that only now are Sony finally going to go fully in on making PS5 only games. And look,
that was what I was thinking, Jack.
Look, I get it. The PS5's release couldn't have been more poorly timed even if they tried.
Because it doesn't really matter to PlayStation right now, because the games are still selling, right? And and PS4s are probably still selling.
As Sony pretty much released that console at the time when the world pretty much ended. So I will say it was a morally good decision from Sony to have their big releases from 2020 to now come out for both their 8th gen system and their 9th gen system.
That was not... that was probably planned long before COVID. I don't think they were like, oh, damn it, everybody's having a hard time now. Let's put a PS4 too.
But I don't know, I think they waited too long to now start making every game a PS5 exclusive. In their own words, the PS5 is now in the later half of its life cycle, which
this was also something people complained about, especially in like 2015 for the PS4.
Means that they only have like 4 more years to make games for the PS5 before the PS6 comes out, which I don't think is going to be enough time to grow a large lineup of exclusive games from Sony for reasons that I'll get into later in this video. But you know what, let's just say that regardless if they are exclusives or cross-gen releases, at the very least the recent game releases from Sony are still very unique experiences. Is what I would say if it weren't for issue number 3.
They're all The Last of Us.
Where is the variety? I legitimately cannot be the only one who feels like the variety of games that are—
It's funny because after Concord, because this was a general talking point, but after Concord, this talking point has like disappeared and everybody's like, just make the single player games. Because now everybody's like, live service games are like the big problem everybody's attacking. Unless you think Concord died because it was work. Which, you know, the great Tyrone would say. Fuck, there was another point there. I mean, all these games are diverse. People, this is sort of just a stupid meme about The Last of Us and God of War being similar. Because, like, Horizon is like an open-world, third-party, like, bow and arrow game. God of War is obviously an action game. The Last of Us is a third-person shooter. Spider-Man is an open-world game, but it's not like a shooter or anything. These are all pretty different games. Unless you're like, oh, where are the platformers? But Astro Bot exists now, but also nobody's going to... There's a reason why Mario's the only platformer around. It's because nobody really... Your friends in high school aren't playing platformers. They're beating up the little nerdy kids that play platformers, right?
coming from Sony Studios.
And outside of that, like, Sony's stopped making first-person shooters with Killzone, but now they have Bungie, so I guess they are making those. But those aren't going to be platform exclusive.
Videos are now at an all-time low. The games that we've been getting recently from them, as well as the diversity between IPs, has all felt very samey and formulaic.
I wonder if exclusives have ever mattered to console sales. I guess it matters more when Xbox exists. Like, in the 360 era, I'm sure it mattered. In the PS4, Xbox One era, maybe it mattered because PlayStation had them all and Xbox had none, but the Xbox One was still relatively successful. And now Xbox just puts everything on PC because they're like the same thing. Like, what's the incentive for Sony to do exclusives, really? Now, obviously, they are doing massive amounts of exclusives still. But, like, I don't think that's, like, why you're a PlayStation, brother. Like, the PS5s are going to be Fortnite, NBA 2K, Call of Duty machines most of the time, right?
Here's what I mean. I decided to go to PlayStation.com, go to the game section, then
And
PS.
PlayStation, it really is, because Xbox is kind of non-existent. Now, PlayStation is, like, the only traditional console, because you've got the Switch, but the Switch is, like, its own thing, and then you've got PC, and then there's just, like, people that are not going to buy a PC because they're not going to game on a PC, because they like controllers or whatever, or that's just all they've ever done. And then there's people who buy Nintendo stuff, which is, like, more so for party things, and, like, your girlfriend probably has a Switch. And so the PS5 is, like, the only kind of current console at the moment. Like, if we compare, like, it's at, like, 50 million sold, right? PS5 sales numbers. And then, what is the Xbox even called? Xbox Series X? What a terrible fucking name. Sales numbers. Yeah, it's about 30 million. Uh-oh. It's not 8 million, I assure you. Where's the stupid... How many PS5s has been sold? 62 million. There you go. That's a number. So they, like, doubled. I guess I thought Xbox was doing worse than that. So it's only, like, double. But it doesn't see... Like, I think the PS4 had massively outsold the PS5 by the time it was 4 years in. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there.
And just simply count how many of the presented games from their internal studios are either remasters/remakes, sequels, or originals. And here are the results. I found out that out of the 15 total first-party games that the page had, 6 of them were remasters or remakes, 6 of them were sequels, and only 3 of them were original games. That certainly is a ratio, alright.
Is there a new
Had 6 of them
Sackboy
were
game on
remasters or
PS5?
remakes, 6 of them were sequels, and only 3 of
Really? I had no idea. I've never heard of this one. Oh, actually, I have now that I think about it.
them were original games. That's
Also, why do original games matter? Like, when has Nintendo ever made an original game? What was their last original game? Splatoon?
certainly is a ratio, alright. I should stress this now that it isn't exactly the quantity of remakes or sequels that necessarily bother me. If it did, I'd probably not be a massive fan of Nintendo, a company who pretty much have been using the same
Oh, he's just so smart, this old fella.
characters over and over and over again. Instead, what really irks me with these large amount of recent PlayStation sequels and remakes is that a grand majority of these are from franchises and IPs that either originated from the PS4 era or were very prominent in the PS4 era. Spider-Man, Horizon, and The Last of Us are very good examples of this. It always bothered me how
Why?
certain people online would complain about how Nintendo never focuses on their smaller IPs in favor of only using their big IPs. But, and I can't believe I need to say this, Nintendo has actually improved a lot in resolving this issue in this generation, but more importantly, Sony is now just as guilty of this problem, if not
Wait, what is this game and what?
actually improved a lot in
Oh, wait, no, I think I saw this on a Nintendo Direct
resolving
one.
this issue in this generation, but more importantly, Sony is now just as guilty of this problem, if not much worse. During the Switch era, Nintendo had made sequels, remasters, and remakes for games from across a variety of other generations, with the oldest one being from
Endless Ocean, that's that
the
game.
stinking Famicom. Meanwhile, Sony can only dig as deep as the PS3 era to create a remake for this generation. I really
Because that's the only ones they really own, right?
think Sony choosing to pay
Like, they can't make another Crash game, they don't own it.
attention to a few select game franchises and only those few select game franchises sort of ended up making any new releases from them feel much less special in a way. It's kind of sad to say, but there was a time where it was incredibly hyped to see Spider-Man or Kratos on the screen in game trailers, but now I can't be bothered to necessarily care that much anymore because it feels like that's all that we've been getting now for this generation. It especially doesn't help that nearly all of the represented IPs now feature games that are very similar to each other. Third-person action-adventure games that push for a cinematic approach in their design with serious and usually heart-gripping stories with overly realistic graphics. But the only
The
thing that really
cinematic thing is a point, and obviously they're going to do the graphics.
differentiates them being their primary gameplay loops. This isn't meant to diss on each game that goes for this approach. I actually do like a few of them, but what made PlayStation so great to me is that they did have such a varied lineup of IPs and franchises many generations ago. It is honestly incredible that Sony were able to provide such a great lineup of first-party and exclusive third-party games back in the PS1. Considering that unlike
30 years ago,
Nintendo during
when you could make a game in a
the
year.
generation, Sony had to basically start from nothing. This varied lineup of games would also be carried
And also, they had a way more, not like Final Fantasy VII was an exclusive game, but that was because of an exclusivity contract. It wasn't because of a first-party studio. Squaresoft was not a first-party studio.
over to the PS2 generation, where we would also see more IPs get introduced. Really, it wasn't until the PS4 generation where Sony saw the critical and financial success of games like Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us from the last generation and went, hey, let's just make more games like that. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing back in the PS4 generation, since there was still some variety when it came to the game releases from that era, but now it's just gone much worse in this generation. And sadly, it looks like this is going to be one of those problems that's not looking to be resolved anytime soon. Especially when by now, you've all probably seen the leaked Insomniac Games roadmap from a few months ago.
I forgot they were still making Ratchet and Clank. I have seen, like, I've heard about the Venom and the Wolverine stuff. I didn't know there was an X-Men one afterwards.
How lame this is. They've basically been relegated to a glorified licensed Marvel game studio now. I seriously cannot be the only one who feels incredibly
It's so annoying. This is like Miller arguing with me on one thing and then Minty arguing with me on the other end, where it's like, this is literally what people dreamed of like 7 years ago. Imagine if it was like the MCU, but like Insomniac was like making the games instead of shitty movie tie-ins. And now that's happening, and now it's like, oh, look at how Insomniac has fallen. They can't even make new video games. They gotta make Wolverine video games.
depressed just by looking at this. Besides Marvel, they're also working on making another Ratchet and Clank game, which I'm certain will be made as a PlayStation 6 technical showcase, and no actual new IPs from them until the 2030s.
And also this
Cool.
glorification of new IPs.
So cool. But you know what? I would accept this change of variety from Sony. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'd still bitch about it. I would tolerate this change of variety from Sony if it weren't for issue number 4. Sony, you're so slow. Due to the nature of Sony's current games always pushing to use the highest end graphics, it means that pretty much every game from PlayStation now has extremely long development cycles. It's pretty common to have each game from
I don't
PlayStation's
think
big
that's the only issue.
studios now take years on top of years to complete, which plays a huge factor as to why the PS5 has yet to have such a huge catalog of exclusive games. This is also why I don't think Sony has the time now to even try to build a large catalog of exclusive games for the PS5. Once again, Sony has confirmed themselves that the PS5's lifecycle is already halfway done. I don't think that roughly 4 years is going to be—
Also, even if we look at this, like, how many PlayStation 5 owners do you think have played every one of these games? It's probably like 0.001%, right? So to be like, oh, this isn't enough games, when you're like, well, also, some of these games aren't even out yet, what the fuck? But also, it's like, well, what's the problem here? Like, unless you're literally like Greg Miller, reviewing every one of these games, are you really playing all of these games?
of exclusive games.
And like, there's so many games. We don't really need more games, generally.
This is also why I don't think Sony has the time now to even try to build a large catalog of exclusive games for the PS5. Once again, Sony has confirmed themselves that the PS5's lifecycle is already halfway done. I don't think that roughly 4 years is going to be enough time for Sony to make more exclusive games on PS5 besides the couple of ones that they've already announced, as well as some very play-it-safe guesses. I think Sony was hoping that third-party developers could help in alleviating—
Also, the God of War people are confirmed to not be working on God of War 3, right? It's like a new space IP or
besides
something.
the couple of ones that they've already announced,
Actually, I lie, because that isn't confirmed, but everybody kind of knows
as well
that.
as some very play-it-safe—
I think the Horizon guys are still doing Gorilla. I know their name. What is this? Dead Space 2? Demon Souls 2? I don't know.
guesses.
And also,
Enough
The
time
Last
for Sony
of
to
Us
make
thing
more
isn't
exclusive games on
confirmed
PS5 besides the couple of ones that they've already announced, as well as some very play-it-safe guesses. I think Sony was hoping that third-party developers could help and alleviate the problem by releasing their games in the meantime that they make their big chungus games. Kind of like how they did back in the PS4 generation. But now some of those studios are also investing equally long development times for some of their big game releases. Just look at Kingdom Hearts, mainline Persona, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, or literally every major game release from Rockstar Games after Grand Theft Auto 5.
I got some jelly.
But you know what? I'll give those third-party publishers this. In the meantime that those big game releases get made, they also release smaller and less ambitious titles in the meantime that those games get made. PlayStation can't really say that for themselves.
that's not
Get made, they
really
also
true. What, there's one Kingdom Hearts game or something?
release smaller and
Like, I want to say Rocksteady, but that's not their name. Rockstar don't release little games in between.
less ambitious titles in the meantime that those games get
I don't think Square does either, right? They've had Final Fantasy VII Remake. Well, Square does release a million little games, but like their main studios are Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7.
made. PlayStation can't really say that for themselves. For God's sakes, even the other two major console publishers get this memo. Nintendo and Microsoft also produce and release smaller scale games so they can give something for their fans to play while they work on their more humongous games. And these smaller games can not only be really good, but they can also sometimes be better than the big game releases with the long development cycles. Here's a really good example. Bethesda published 3 games last year, and Microsoft were betting their cards on Starfield being the biggest success of the 3 because it was in fact the biggest game. And well, let's just say that the actual best game of the 3 ended up winning last year. Anyways,
We just changed completely.
of the 3 because it was in
Because
fact
we're talking about, like, oh, they're banking on these things, and then we decided to judge it by which game was the best.
the biggest game. And well, let's just say that the actual best
This studio got shut down. This is not good.
game of the 3 ended up winning last year. Anyways, going back on topic, I really think
Also, if we looked at the, like, in total amount of studios owned, Microsoft almost certainly has the most, right? Because they spent, like, 5 years buying every game studio in existence. And then I actually have no idea, and it's funny how little we know about Nintendo's, like, individual studios. I think we do generally know, but I don't think we know how big they are necessarily and stuff like that. I think information is much more laxed. Can I Google this? How many first-party studios Nintendo owns? Because, like, Pokemon doesn't count. Nintendo has the least direct subsidiaries of the first-party studios. Only 7 companies work under their parent company umbrella. So yeah, that's what I expected. Now, is this gonna chart? Oh, here we go. Let's look at this. Nintendo, and then what about the other ones? Yes, give me 7 pop-ups. I love it. Take-Two, Microsoft and Activision, Sony buying Bungie, hybrid, Our chart shows a successful deal in making Microsoft owns 32 fucking studios, 17 of them being acquired in the last 2 years. While the number may seem high, it is a result of 2 big package deals, including Activision and Blizzard, something, and Bethesda before that, I'm sure. Bethesda, look, I just said that, I'm a genius. While EA might not be a direct competitor to giants like Microsoft and Sony or Tencent, which is the Chinese company, and nonetheless, it was, 21 studios. That's a giant. Tencent, on the other hand, has 14 studios. I don't even know which studios they have. Oh, Turtle Rock and Left 4 Dead or something. Sony's one of the biggest trends in the game, focus on live service, some multiplayer. So where's the number? Am I missing the number? Oh, here's the fucking numbers. Sony does not have 21 studios, does it? What the fuck? Does this include, like... Oh, I guess they own, like, Blue Point and stuff that do all the remasters. Well, actually, they don't do the remasters. They do a bunch of remakes. It being as big as a lot... What is this with one studio down here? So can we find a list of them? Because there's Sony Santa Monica, that's the God of War people. There's Naughty Dog. There's Insomniac now. I think they own Insomniac again, right? Or do they just have a deal with Insomniac? Then they've got the Concord people. Firewalk or whatever. They've got Guerrilla. There's 2 Guerrilla studios, but one of those shut down, right? I don't know. I'm nearly 5 in.
I think PlayStation needs to go back and have...
But I think if we do count all those, like all those little VR games would count, right? So, or are we counting those in a different section because those are PSVR games? Which is kind of dishonest then on this video's part.
Studios that are involved with making smaller games with some kind of creative originality.
But I guess this could be a point in here because PSVR 2 isn't doing very good.
Because having all of their workforce make these large-scale games and only large-scale games really limits how many great...
I got a piss chat so bad. So, what do we even do? Death Stranding 2, true, we got Kojima Productions. JP Hansen is here. What do I play nowadays when I got to piss? I got to piss so bad. I was going to try and hold it. Dan to Dan out of the theater reaction. No. Western Cinemas and anime music. By the time I get back, we'll have figured this out. Silence is what you get. Okay, I just thought about like 7 things. First of all, Sony Bend, then Quantic Dream, then I was naming like 7 of them while I pissed. Trust me, I know them all, chat. Fuck, there was like 3 things I thought of while I was pissing and I've forgotten them all. One of them was about the smaller games point. Oh, Insomniac is like, they put out a game like every year and a half, right? Now, the games are usually smaller, which some people complain about. So, the great PlayStation just can't win, with these haters. Kojima Productions isn't owned by Sony, though, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't think so either, but they do have the exclusivity contract. Let's look this up. Does Sony own Insomniac? They did in 2019, because I know they didn't when the first Spider-Man came out. Does Sony own Kojima Productions? As a banner PlayStation Studios logo in the middle, many were under the impression that Kojima Productions was going to be applied by Sony. While Sony does in fact own the trademark for Death Stranding, as can be found here, it does not own Kojima Productions itself. Well, that's crazy. But yeah. There's a bunch of them.
Exclusive games the PS5 could have. Emphasis on go back in that sense, because they actually used to have one studio in the previous generation who did that, Japan Studio. This was the studio that was
True, they shut down Japan Studio and now they're the Astrobot guys.
Emphasis on go back make these large-scale games and only large-scale games really limits how many great exclusive games the PS5 could have. Emphasis on go back in that sense, because they actually used to have one studio in the previous generation who did that, Japan Studio. This was the studio that was responsible for some of the most creative and experimental games across PlayStation's history.
Isn't this Loco Roco? Isn't this a generation before that game?
They were also always my personal favorite studio from PlayStation. A studio like them can be really beneficial in this current era of PlayStation. It's just unfortunate that Sony decided that the best course of action on handling a studio that they needed more than ever is to shut them down early in this generation.
They just chose to do it, Ulu. There's probably no reason that, maybe this game didn't do very well, and Gravity Rush wasn't doing too well, and Knack didn't do too well.
I also think that Sony being incredibly slow with their game releases also ties alongside some of their recent questionable business decisions as well. I remember around early on in the PS5 generation, Sony really wanted to focus on making multiplayer games to capitalize on the live service gaming craze at the time. But because Sony's game releases are as consistent and as frequent as my YouTube upload schedule, the live service craze has now crashed and burned before Sony could even release any major multiplayer games. Because of this, a good
Oh my god, is this going to be a Helldivers pop-up? Because these are wrong?
Any major multiplayer games.
Or at least ones that they made themselves. I'm not counting Helldivers 2 in this argument.
Because of this, a good amount of online multiplayer game projects that were in the works at Sony have now gone cancelled, including the previously announced Last of Us Online game by Naughty Dog, and also a multiplayer game that would have been based on Insomniac Spider-Man. This one wasn't even announced at all. By the time we found out about it, the project had already been canned, so yeah, cool. And hey, I guess while I'm on the topic of Sony's game releases now being only large-scale projects,
Issue number 5.
why are you spending so much money, Sony? While I'm definitely sure that Sony has spent millions on top of millions on the budgets of their
I'm sure this will be a great budgetary breakdown.
games for years, I think now it's gone to the point where these games are so ridiculously expensive to make now. This is mostly due to AAA games needing much more resources to make than ever before, as well as just everything in general being much more expensive than ever before. While the budgets given to PlayStation's AAA game releases aren't exactly given out as public information from Sony, we can still make a safe guess. Because of that massive Insomniac games leak from a while back, a ton of information about Insomniac's game releases have been made available to the public, which includes the budgets and even the sales numbers of their games.
This is the one everybody freaks out about, because Spider-Man 3, one of them costs $250 million or something.
So let's take a look at the game entries from Insomniac on PS5 so we can take a rough guess as to how much money Sony invests into an average PS5 game. Not like this will take long though, it's only 2 games. It's been confirmed that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was barely able to make a profit return for PlayStation, which is shocking to hear since the game sold a total of nearly 4 million copies. But it was apparently not good enough for Sony since the game costed them $81 million to make. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but strap in, it gets worse. Now with Spider-Man 2, that game would obviously cost way more to make than Rift Apart, simply because the visuals of that game are way more intensive and the game itself is also just way bigger. With all that being said, this game had—
How do we quantify that the visuals are so much better? Wasn't Ratchet & Clank crazy because of all the things that were moving on screen or something?
budget of $315 million.
Okay, it was more than I thought.
That's just completely outrageous. I refuse to believe that it cost them this much money just to make the exact same game again, only with slightly prettier visuals and a slightly bigger map. Where did most of that budget
I'm sure it's the exact same game again.
go towards? Did it go into Venom and all of his 19 inches? That's the only answer I will accept. In all seriousness though, I feel pretty confident in saying that Sony spending this much money on making games like Spider-Man 2 is most likely the big reason as to why PlayStation stuff in general is now as expensive as it is. A game publisher
Now, these Spider-Man games sell 20 million copies each, so I'm pretty sure they're doing okay. And the budgetary shit could be for millions of other reasons. Couple 100 million other reasons, brother. It's not I'm pretty sure these companies aren't just massively mismanaging funds. I'm sure this is paying off for something. Otherwise, budgets wouldn't be approved.
on making games like Spider-Man 2 is most likely the big reason as to why PlayStation stuff in general is now as expensive as it is. A game publisher and developer choosing to make super expensive games that require years to make isn't a problem in and of itself, but the fact of the matter is that in the meantime those types of games get made, that publisher and developer is simply not going to be making any money unless they have external revenue streams. Rockstar Games is so damn lucky that so many people have spent their life savings and probably the grandparents' inheritance on fucking shark cards because now they're in a position where they can focus entirely on making big budget game releases and not necessarily worry on their release dates, which is both a blessing and an absolute curse at the same time. In the case of PlayStation, their external revenue sources outside of game sales are console sales and PlayStation Plus subscriptions, and whatever amount of money that that Sony is making from those, it's clearly not enough for them. Because despite Spider-Man 2 selling 10 million copies in the holiday of 2023, which is really good for any video game, it still wasn't good enough to prevent massive layoffs within Sony Interactive.
This is... You can't just say it's good for any video game. Well, that's probably not true, especially if the video game costs 130 or 315 million dollars. Colin talks about this on his show where he's like, oh, it used to be like a massive deal to sell 1 million units, but now like if you sell 1 million units, it's like a massive failure. And obviously this just reflects general trends and things like that.
This all looks even worse when you start looking at games like Power World, which costs way less to make, yet sold nearly the same amount of copies as Spider-Man.
Yes, just replicate Power World, just like we're trying to replicate Fortnite. Surely this isn't the actual problem.
2. Or how about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, a game that sold equally well as Spider-Man 2, despite that game being released in what's supposed to be the Twilight years
It's a fucking Mario game.
of the Switch's life, and once again, was much cheaper to produce than Spider-Man 2. This isn't an issue that could be pinned onto consumers becoming
Do
disinterested
we know how much it costs?
years of the Switch's life. And once again, it was much cheaper to produce than Spider-Man 2. This isn't an issue that could be pinned onto consumers becoming disinterested in the PS5 because it's getting older. This is an issue of a business model simply being unsustainable. Also, why did you acquire Bungie? And why for that much money? That acquisition was nearly 2 years ago. Did PlayStation fans get any benefit from this? Serious question. So, just to reflect on everything we covered thus far, we have a console that cost a lot of money to purchase.
Why? Like, what if PlayStation fans get games, right? I don't think they acquired Bungie for the fans.
With accessories, games, and subscriptions that also cost a lot of money to purchase, with the console itself barely featuring any kinds of exclusive experiences to be had on it by the 3rd year mark, with no signs of any sort of consistent new game releases happening anytime soon. Well, gee, golly gosh, I sure wonder why sales expectations weren't met. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about this, because this has really grinded my gears throughout this entire video. I'm gonna go into issue number 6. Sony's give up mentality. I think it really shows just how much Sony doesn't care in trying to make the PS5 the best it could possibly be, when the moment that the console is met with one disappointing financial year is to basically say, oh, it's just the console entering the later half of its life. People are losing interest because the console is getting older. It just means we need to release the
Is this coming from that one article?
PS5 Pro or PS6 to renew people's interest. But that's not the root of the problem. Ultimately, there's no one to put the blame on why the PS5 isn't meeting Sony's ridiculously high expectations besides the higher-ups of that very company who have been making these dumb business choices that have negatively affected the way people see this brand. Thinking that it won't matter because they think people will buy into the platform regardless because it's the PS5. You love the PS4, so you gotta buy the PS5.
Plop plop a noop noop.
Honestly, all of this really does remind me of that time when Sony was really struggling during the early era of the PS3. Both that era and this era were bad for Sony for entirely different contexts, but they both started in a very similar way. Sony making dumb choices at the beginning of the generation after being super successful
I feel like the PS3 thing is way different.
from the last generation and not realizing the significance of their problems until it hits them right in their wallet. But
God,
at least
60 gigabyte hard drive.
with the early PS3 generation, when Sony realized that they royally screwed up, they put in the aggressive effort to fix it, making the console cheaper, giving it an entire rebrand, releasing a
They
new
put in
marketing
the effort. They made the
campaign,
smart
and actually
decision.
beginning to release games that people would want to play and buy the console over. And in the end, they ended up saving themselves and saving the PS3 from being a complete
Do you
flop.
think if we tracked like a God of War 3 release with PS3s, do you think it had like a massive thing? Like a massive influence on sales? Like that college football game that came out a few months ago apparently had massive impact on general sales numbers because a bunch of people who were college football fans who hadn't bought a console would buy a console just to play that game.
You
God of War 3 and other exclusives probably don't have that effect.
know what I think modern PlayStation would do if they were in the exact same
I
position
wonder if we could track numbers like that and then track them for like Pokemon, which I think almost certainly would have that effect. Basically because that's just how everybody I know buys consoles, is if a Pokemon game is coming out.
as they were in the early life of the PS3. I'll tell you what they do.
But of course that's just anecdotal. The Powered news makes this a bit funny. It's true, also Powered's getting sued or something by the Pokemon company today.
They would just give up. Just look at what happened to the
Which I
PlayStation
think they would definitely win, right? We'll see though.
as they were in the early life of the PS3. I'll tell you what they do. They would just give up. Just look at what happened to the PlayStation Vita. Platform receives a report of stagnant sales once and Sony immediately folds. Sony really needs to step back and restructure the way they handle their business model with PlayStation. Primarily, try to find a way to have players be engaged in your platform by having consistent exclusive releases. Bring something new to the table or bring back forgotten IPs that could really use
True, the video games I liked from my childhood, that's what they need. Sly Cooper.
the spotlight again. Even if those games would need to be made on a smaller budget or not fit in that well with the AAA game releases, just give it a chance. It would bring more exclusives, it would bring much needed variety, and you really wouldn't have much to lose but possibly much to gain if one of those smaller scale games becomes successful. Even when it was ultimately met with failure in the end, Nintendo still tried to make the Wii U worth it by giving it an admittedly pretty good and varied lineup of games for its time. Even when the company was in financial troubles, it was never
But
taken
it didn't work for the Wii U.
out on the employees. And thanks to a change of approach early on in the Switch its
What was
time,
that?
even when the company was in financial troubles, it was never taken out
Nintendo CEO to take 50... Oh my god, the great Nintendo CEO taking our own pay cut. We hate CEOs here who just stack all the money for themselves. That's the
on the employees. And thanks to a change of approach early on in the Switch generation, Nintendo has now clearly proven that you can get people to buy and still be invested in a console even in its twilight years, let alone the middle of its life cycle. And the way they were able to do that is providing exclusive, unique, and creatively filled games consistently throughout its entire life, even if there were some hiccups along the way. And then there's Sony, who after announcing that console sales didn't meet their expectations last year, decided that the best idea to go with is to fire a huge amount of their employees while also announcing to their fans to expect no big releases from them this
Yes, that's how it works.
year.
They said they were giving
Are
up.
you seriously punishing your employees, your consumers, the people who actually give you money for not giving you more? Well, I'm sorry that people don't want to invest $500+ on a platform that has no exciting games in the foreseeable future, very little value to it, and the little value that it does have can just be experienced on other better platforms. Is this a joke? Do you seriously expect me and other players to be content waiting for 2+ years just so I can play the exact same games again, only with different, most likely shittier stories? How do you expect an increase in sales of your console when there's nothing for people to look forward to on it besides more of the same shit, as well as continue to invest your money on ways that don't make your platform?
Why was the Horizon critique of the story? The only person I've said say the story in Horizon was good was Mr. R. And even I didn't like it.
Expect an increase in sales of your console when there's nothing for people to look forward to on it besides more of the same.
Also, what's with this? Like, they're acting like PlayStation was, like, entitled. Obviously, it was just like, well, we're not making that much money, so let's get rid of some of these idiots so we can shore up the losses and then go with a different plan. And like, obviously, they're going to increase prices because they can. And you're going to pay for them.
Same shit, as well as continue to invest your money on ways that don't make your platform any better at all. Hey guys, please buy our $200 glorified Wii U gamepad, and while you're at it, please buy our PlayStation earbuds. Go watch the Last of Us TV show, and please watch our Uncharted movie where Nathan Drake is played by MCU Peter Parker. And stay tuned for the $700 PS5 Pro, where we will release even more fucking remasters of the same 2 Last of Us skins for an additional price each. I think I'm done. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's just really depressing to see how much PlayStation is struggling right now. I can't deny the fact that Sony's business model in the PS4 era was definitely a huge success in the short term for them for making the PS4 as successful.
Hold on, what is has it massively, besides the live service thing, what has materially changed between the PS4 and the PS5 design aesthetics or development aesthetics? Games take longer to make, that's like it.
As it was, but that's just it. It was something that worked in the short term. A business model that simply isn't built to last in this current day of age. To give Sony some benefit of the doubt, perhaps the massive layoffs can possibly be a wake-up call for them to finally change things up, especially.
But again, we're like the Sony layoffs, like there's that website that tracks like there's been like 10,000 layoffs across every single company, except for Nintendo. Like this.
Since this would be the month where Jim Ryan would step down as CEO of Sony Interactive after being in the position since 2019.
It is true. You could have pointed more to the Jim Ryan takeover because Sean Layden stepped down or whatever after the PS4 came out. I mean the PS5.
I'm not holding my breath. I'm tired of hoping for.
You remember Sean Layden from the Great Last of Us video?
Brand. I'm sorry if this video was much more of a Debbie Downer than what I usually make, but it's something that's been frustrating me for years now. The reasons for why I fell in love with PlayStation to begin with all those years ago are just no longer valid in this current era of the brand. And that just makes me sad. I've got a feeling that most people will just pass this video off as me being just a hater or being a dumb Nintendo or something like that. That's fine. That won't bother me. I'm confident that anyone with actual brains will at least know where I'm coming from. We're currently living in a very transitional
We know where he's coming from, chat, don't we?
period of gaming. There's a good chance that a game publisher that you knew for years is possibly going to change and adapt into something much different in only a matter of a few years.
This video really very much does feel like a 2013 anti-Xbox like rant video where it's just like kind of a collection of internet talking points that probably are completely unfounded.
Which, hey,
and it all comes down to they should just make the games, brother. The games that are good, that I like.
maybe a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? As of now, we'll just have to wait
Except that last part is in brackets.
for all of it to settle and see where all of this goes. In the meantime, I'll just continue to enjoy gaming on the platforms that I enjoy doing it the most. All the while, I occasionally remember to look at my PS5, sitting on the floor, collecting dust, constantly having its dim orange rest mode LED light strip on for weeks at a time, and simply say to myself, I miss the old PlayStation. I miss them a lot.
I feel like Switches are definitely collecting more dust, right?
Anyways, tune in for next time where I will be talking about a bunch of stupid Mario Party games. My endurance to create original content truly is a laborious one.
Hasn't that been a massive, like, Switch complaint this year? Is it like, oh, they just gave up at the end because there's no games coming out that aren't remakes? Oh my god, we're going flat in real time. Is this the first battery warning or the second one? I think it's the second one. Ah, we gotta go, chat. No new Sly Cooper game is my issue with PlayStation. It seems like his issue too. I've never played a Sly Cooper game. I can't comment. But I don't know, he looks kind of ugly. I don't like him. I will learn how to type Kiss in the Dark eventually, chat. Don't you worry. We still didn't watch that fucking Pokemon video. We will eventually, chat. We will eventually. I think in the end I'm going to give that video an okay. I don't know. Maybe we'll be back to stream tomorrow. Actually, probably not, because, you know, I got to work tomorrow. Oh, and I forgot to record, chat. God damn it. Maybe we'll have to do that tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. But that's the end of stream, sucker.